All right, you want to do your introduction?
Sure. Hello, folks. Kent Hovind here at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. David, we've been calling and talking back and forth for quite a while, a couple of years, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And you wanted to come down and see our Dinosaur Adventureland and ask a few questions, so take it away. Tell us all about what you need to know.
Well, all right. Well, we're doing a little curriculum that is pretty interesting. It's called Freedom, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, wanted to give you some of the highlights and see what you thought about it.
Okay.
So the key question that in this series is, what is going to be our approach to God? So if I were to ask you, what is your approach to God?
Well, what curriculum age group are you shooting at here? Because kids need explained differently than adults. Is this a curriculum for all ages?
All ages, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I think we need to approach God humbly. He's the creator. He's the boss. He's the owner. You don't approach him and tell him what to do. You approach him and ask him what he wants you to do.
Absolutely.
He's the master, the creator. Atheists don't believe that, of course. They will one day, but it'll be too late by then. So, my approach to God is, Lord, what would you have me to do? You're your boss.
Right. That's true.
Okay.
Christianity has a branding problem. Have you heard that?
No, I've heard that expression, but why do you say that?
Well, I mean, so the point of this is you got the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? Mm-hmm. And then the tree of life.
Right.
And basically, even though it was a real thing back then, now it's, what we're doing is doing like a metaphor, right? If you have a lot of things in your past, you're taking from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right?
Okay.
Now, if you're, doing basically what's right, what did God tell Cain? If you do what is right, won't you be accepted?
You still be accepted, right?
But if you do what's wrong, what? There's sin laying at the door, right?
Sin lieth at the door. That's a strange phrase. Several interpretations of that, but I think it means, look, there's another offering right there.
Right.
Go get it, But he chose to bring his own fruit and vegetables. God, look what I did for you. God wouldn't take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
Well, our righteousness is determined by you have to be perfect, absolutely flawless to go to heaven. I mean, if you burned my house down and said, hey, I'm sorry, Brother Hovind, here's $20. That would not satisfy.
Absolutely, yep.
So when we offend against an all-righteous God, it's a death sentence. It requires the death of an innocent sacrifice. And that's what Abel understood, and he brought a lamb.
That is true.
Adam and Eve were taught that, because when they sinned, they made fig leaf aprons. Fig leaves there's no blood in a turnip or a fig.
Right.
So God had something had to die.
Right.
So I think the purpose of that, right at the very beginning, with Adam and then again with Cain and Abel, was to show them the death sentence is required for sin. We don't take it seriously. We laugh about it, but God takes it very seriously.
Right. Very true.
If he allowed us into heaven like we are, we would ruin that place like we've ruined this one.
Exactly.
That's why you have to be perfect to go to heaven, which means nobody's going. But Jesus Christ was perfect, and his righteousness is put onto our account when we receive him as our Savior. My sins are gone. Praise God.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so the tree of knowledge of good and evil says you got to do more to get to God. Now, how many, I guess every other religion says you have to climb a ladder or do what is right, basically.
Yeah, most religions are in the Cain category. They're trying to please God with their works.
And they're taking out of the tree of knowledge, right?
And it's not going to work. Didn't work for Cain. It won't work for them.
Nope.
Yeah.
And it also says that you got to keep trying to get God's approval, because, well, I can get your approval all day long, right?
Yeah.
But your approval can only go so much. You can't take me or Mr. Peaches over there, Ryan, to heaven, right?
Right.
I mean, you can give advice. Now, it's what we do with that advice. We can either take it for granted or go into basically just keep on going in a circle, and it keeps on getting smaller. And then you wake up one morning, and then half your life is gone. And what have you done for the whole 60, 70 years that you've been alive,
Right. Our righteousness will never get us to heaven. No. See, when you get born into God's family, you get born again. You're one of God's children. it's not, now if you sin, it's handled differently.
Very true.
If your son and my son were playing baseball in the yard, and I said, guys, don't play out there in the yard, you're going to break the window on the car.
Right.
And sure enough, they break the window. Okay. What happens next depends upon who broke it. If my son broke it, I'm not going to call the law. This is a family matter. We're going to go in the house and, get a spanking or get grounded or something. But if your son breaks it, it might become a legal matter. You owe me $300 for my window or whatever. Okay.
Right.
So if you're not born into God's family, God's going to be your judge. But if you are born into the family, you can do the same sin, but now he treats it like a father-son.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, the tree of life tells you got to receive the fact that he already loves you, and that has been finished on the cross, right?
Right. He's not willing that any should perish. He wants everybody to get saved, but we're all sinners.
That's right.
And you have to first admit that. Don't come to God and say, look, God, I'm pretty good. He says, oh, yeah, you want me to read the list I've got on you? I don't want him to read my list.
That is true. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil says you got to obey out of duty.
Right.
And it just doesn't work that way.
See, I want to serve God. I don't have to. I want to. A husband and wife relationship should be where I want to be your partner. It's not. God didn't make a robot out of Eve for Adam. He made a helper. And so that's a totally different attitude. God is God. We should approach him like he's our heavenly Father.
Absolutely.
I had great respect for my dad. Okay, he was Marine, World War II, 6'2", sergeant in the Marines, but he's a great godly man and wisdom beyond unbelief. I thought he knew everything when I was a kid.
Right.
So God we should have respect for God. He does know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And lastly, the tree of life says that it is finished on the cross.
His righteousness, when he died on the cross, the last thing he said, it's finished.
Right.
Nobody was able throughout all of history. When Moses came down from the mountain with the 10 commandments and the rest of the commandments, there's more than 10. Okay? He read the law to the people, and the people made the biggest mistake in world history. They said, oh, we can do that. All that the Lord has said, we will do.
Right.
God said, oh, okay, well, let's see how you do. And for the next 1,500 years, they proved they can't do it.
They couldn't do it, yeah.
That would have been the time to say, Lord, please be merciful to me, a sinner. But no, they said, we can do this.
Right.
And it became a pride and ego thing. Who's keeping the law? And who's, people are still trying to get everybody back under the law.
Right.
And so it's sad. So Jesus finished. He's the only one ever to obey all the laws. And then his blood can be put onto my account.
Right.
So I get to go to heaven because of what he did, not because of what I do.
Right. Now, let's get into some fun stuff.
Okay.
Explain to me, because I don't know much about it, the geologic column.
Okay.
And you can put the slides up for this one too.
There you go. I got pictures right here.
Oh, okay.
In 1830, and before that, but around the early 1800s, some people began making up a chart like this called the geologic column. They gave each of the layers to the Earth a different name, Jurassic and Triassic and Mississippian and all that stuff. And they assigned an age to them. This entire geologic column is stupid. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world. They're claiming the top layer of dirt is younger than the one under it. They made up what they called the law of superposition, which is not a law at all. It's ridiculous. He said, well, we know the top layer is younger than the one under it. No, the layers are deposited sideways. See, the moon is up there pulling on our water down here on Earth, making a bump called the high tide. And we're spinning around under the moon. So the tide's going up, down, every 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes as we go from high tide to low tide. That lifting of the water up and letting it back down, up, down, if it weren't interrupted by continents, today the Earth's got stuff sticking up through the water. We call them continents, and we live on one. So if the Earth did not have those continents, if it was just covered in water, the tide would become harmonic, and the tide would go up and down 200 feet every 6 hours, 12 and a half minutes. Now it goes up in Florida, averages about 4 feet. Different spots, it's different amounts, but the tide goes up and down. Well, just going up and down, think about it. If the water comes up, where's the water coming from to fill that bump? Sideways. The water's being dragged in from the sides by the moon's gravity. Sideways moving water creates layers. watch the video, Experiments in Stratification. Some guy in Colorado went to the big Navy flume they've got there. It's about 4 foot wide and 2 foot high, and they run water through it all the time. And you pour stuff in, and it automatically separates. It makes 8 or 10 layers at the same time. And the layers they prograde downstream. They're not building this way, they're building this way. So the whole assumption of the geologic column is wrong. The top layer is not younger. If the top layer is younger, I'm always asking these guys, you're saying the Holocene dirt's only 10,000 years old. But this dirt down here is 4 million years old. Okay. Would you please tell me where that dirt was hanging out for 3.999 million years? How can that dirt be younger? Where was it? Are layers being added from space? No. Is the Earth a big caramel apple you keep dipping in every once in a while, adding a new layer? No. All the layers are the same age. Yeah. And all over the world, petrified trees are found standing up, running through all the layers. Just Google polystrata fossils. Poly means many. I get pictures of it here for you. All over the world, thousands of these have been found. Let's see. Polystrata fossils. Here we go. I got 50,000 slides, so it helps if you ask the questions in the same order that I have the answer.
I was afraid you'd say that.
Here we go. Sorry, I had to edit out the coughing here. Polystrata. There, all right. All over the world, we find trees like this standing up, running through multiple layers. Question, how long does a dead tree stand around in Oxford, Alabama, where you guys live, before it falls over?
Not very long.
A year, maybe, not millions of years. Petrified trees in the standing position are found all over the world, thousands of them. It only takes one to prove the point, but they're claiming these layers are different ages. I'm sorry, that is just not possible. All the layers formed in 1 year, with the floodwater going back and forth, making all the layers sideways.
Right.
So you could have a layer on top that's actually older than a layer on the bottom because it's further downstream. Got nothing whatsoever to do with evolution. But anyway, that whole geologic column made up in 1830 is what has destroyed, I think, common sense in this world. Thank you, Joseph.
Right.
Okay. They now think, oh, wow, this... And then if they find a fossil in a certain layer, like say you find a clam fossil, petrified clam closed.
Right.
Okay. If you take this to university and say, how old is it? First question they ask, where did you find it?
That's because of the layers.
In the dirt.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, they're going to date the fossil by which layer it comes from. Then if you ask them, how do you know that layer is a certain age? They'll date the layer by the fossil. Here's a petrified fish. Gills extended, fins extended. This thing died terrorized. It was being rapidly covered in sediment.
Right.
Trying to swim to escape, I guess.
Yeah.
And so fish by the billion, maybe even trillions have been found fossilized in the swimming position. Today when a fish dies, it's picked apart by scavengers and rots before it hits the bottom,
Right, right.
But anyway, I think the Bible says in 2 Peter chapter 3, at the end of time, there would be scoffers, well, I've met a bunch of them, who are willingly ignorant of the creation and the flood. They don't want to admit there was a flood that destroyed the world, because that would mean God has the authority to judge his creation. And he does. This is his world. He can wreck it if he wants. And he's coming to do it again. Whether you like it or not, he's going to be the judge.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Now, we got back from the Grand Canyon about a month ago.
Okay.
So, which Grand Canyon has always been something that's just so cool to me. So tell me what you know about the Grand Canyon, because of course they were talking about your evolution theory and the Earth is billions of years old. And so actually, it's unusual. In some spots, there were little dots that had 1 year, 2 year, 3 year,
right,
4 year. And it's like, what is that about,
They want you to think that each of the layers of Grand Canyon is a different age, which is just plain stupid, okay? When I was out there, I've been out there many times to Grand Canyon. I got pictures of it here somewhere. But when I was out to Grand Canyon, I paid the $50 to take the helicopter ride down to the bottom.
Right.
We get down to the bottom of the canyon, and the guide on the helicopter says, folks, we just went back 300 million years. I looked at my watch. It was the same day. We didn't go back at all.
Right.
I want my money back, okay? So the top of Grand Canyon is about 7,000 feet above sea level. The river enters the canyon at less than 3,000 feet and flows downhill from there. Rivers don't flow uphill. Grand Canyon is a washed-out dam.
Right.
If you plugged up Grand Canyon, I know that would take a lot of dirt, but if you plugged up the whole canyon, a giant lake would back up behind it called Grand Lake. If you watch my video number 4, Lies in the Textbooks, my whole video series is $50 and it's 18 hours. And you can watch it, copy it, send it back, get your money back. Brother, when I started my ministry, I used to loan videos out.
Right.
I learned right away Christians don't steal, but they borrow and never return.
Yep.
So I'm not going to loan you nothing, okay? You buy it $50 when you're done, bring it back, get your money back. But the top of Grand Canyon is 4,000 feet higher than where the river enters the canyon. Rivers don't flow uphill.
Right.
There had to be a giant lake behind it, and it overflowed at some point. Lakes, what happens when any lake gets too full? It goes over the top.
Right.
And it started eroding the other side, and the erosion eats its way backwards. So Grand Canyon's a washed-out dam. And I show that when I give my tour in our Jeeps around here at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. I show how the Grand Canyon probably formed in a week, not millions of years. So it's sad. And all those layers are the same age. They're all formed in 1 year.
Right.
But millions of people are being deceived when they take this tour. Now, the tour guides probably genuinely really think they're telling the truth.
Right.
But they're lying to the kids.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Now, has there ever been a time where you yourself ever taught like the evolution theory?
Well, I was 16 when I got saved. I was very active in school all my life. I loved teaching, loved learning. Okay, so I was always helping kids in my class when I was, 8th grade, sixth grade, 7th grade. And I taught them what I thought at the time was true. When I got saved at 16, sophomore year in high school, I started reading my Bible. And I realized somebody's wrong. I don't know who it is yet, but somebody's wrong.
Right.
The Bible gives all kinds of dates. And you can get one of my charts here. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. If you look at the dates in the Bible says Adam was 130 when his son was born.
Right.
Genesis chapter 5. And then that son, and by the way, Adam lived to be 930. That son was 105 when his son was born. The dates are all given in Genesis 5. Then you go after the flood here to Genesis 11. It gives a bunch more dates. You can make a chart like this and add up the numbers. The Bible teaches the world's about 6,000 years old, not millions. And yet you read my textbook in public school and it says it's billions of years old. I said, somebody's wrong. Right. So I began reading and studying and trying to learn who's lying, okay, what's the truth? And so there was a time when I used to teach evolution. I used to believe in evolution. But then when I got saved, I quickly got my theology and my science straightened out and said, no, God's word is true. I tell people, if you'll really study the science and learn all the facts, you're going to say, wow, the Bible is true. God made the world in 6 days. It doesn't work any other way. Right. There's billions of what are called symbiotic relationships. Certain animals require certain plants to live. Certain plants require certain animals to pollinate them, blah, blah, blah. It's just not possible to have evolution. It doesn't work. There's no evidence for it anyway. So they can believe it. It's a religion. Nothing more than a pagan religion is all it is. Right.
Now, I watched something you did several years ago. You said, which I guess this is a mistake on my end, I thought we believed in the fossil record. But you said that we don't believe in the fossil record.
Well, I know. I believe there's fossils. Yeah. Gee, there's trillions of them. I got all kinds of fossils in our museum here. Yeah. But there's not really a record. They don't talk.
Right.
Here. Clam, when did you die? They don't talk. There's no date on them. Right. Okay? So people put their interpretation on it. That is what's wrong. It's true, clams are found by the billions. Petrified closed clams are found on top of Mount Everest.
Right.
Thousands and thousands of them. Okay. Well, how do we interpret that? The evolutionists will look at it and say, well, Mount Everest slowly lifted up over billions of years. Creationists will say, well, maybe everything was underwater. Things died, got buried, turned to fossils. By the way, it takes about 1 year to turn these to a fossil.
Right.
If you bury them in the mud. And then the Bible says in Psalm 104, the mountains lifted up and the valleys sank down and the water rushed off. So the mountain ranges form quickly at the end of the flood. Either way, the fossils are there, but they don't talk. So to the atheist, this is a record of millions of years. To the Christian, this is a record of rapid burial and rapid fossilization.
Right.
Noah's flood. So I do believe there are fossils, no question. I got thousands of them here in our museum. I do not believe they're at different ages or millions of years old.
Right.
Okay?
Now, what was your switch on the pre-tribulation rapture versus the post-tribulation? How did that come about?
Now, this chart behind me and the smaller version of it right here, you can get for $10. When I went to prison unjustly, you can watch my show, Open Letter to Donald Trump. I was on all kinds of channels listed on drdino.com. I did not do anything wrong. They just wanted to shut me up. I really began studying my Bible because all my Christian life I had been taught in the Schofield Bible and the Dake Study Bible that, oh, wow, the rapture could happen any minute, pre-tribulation rapture. There's a 7-year period talked about in the book of Daniel that most Christians agree on. There's a 7-year period. That's this yellow stripe right here. The 70th week of Daniel. Daniel said there's going to be 70 weeks appointed to the people of Israel. That's all in Daniel chapter 9. But in verse 27, he talks about this 70th, this last week. And I think most people agree that when he says a week, it means a group of 7 years. 77s, okay? This is called the time of Great Tribulation. And in 1830, a 15-year-old girl in Scotland had a dream that we get raptured out or caught up out of here to go to heaven before the tribulation, pre-trib.
Yep.
And that's what I believe because that's what I was taught. I never really studied it much. I was busy studying other things. But now I've had to switch my theology. We get raptured out at the end of the tribulation. The rapture takes place at the day of Christ, which is mentioned a bunch of times. And it happens when the sun and the moon go dark. So what really got me, I guess, was Matthew 24 and Mark 13. Where's my chart here? Just had it. Okay. Yeah. There. Matthew 24. Jesus' disciples asked him, Lord, when are you coming and what's the sign? Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Mark 13, same thing. Lord, when are you coming back and what sign do we watch for? Luke 21, same thing. These are called parallel passages. There are 3 different gospels telling us the same story. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word is established. If there's something important in the Bible, there'll be at least 3 verses about it.
Right.
If there's only 1 verse about it, that might be interpreted different ways. But they said, when are you coming? What's the sign? He describes the tribulation. He describes the tribulation for 20 verses. And at the end of each passage, he said, I'm coming back after the tribulation when the sun and the moon go dark. Read Matthew 24, 29, 30, Mark 13, 24. After the tribulation, the sun and the moon go dark, and then he's coming back to blow the trumpet and catch us out of here, if anybody's left alive. So when do the sun and moon go dark? Well, in Revelation 6:12, it says the sun and the moon go dark. So we're here for part of the time of tribulation. See, tribulation is what the world does to us. That we're not here when the wrath of God falls on the planet. We're up in heaven at the marriage supper of the Lamb when the wrath of God falls for about 3 years down here.
Right.
The wrath of God falls in the day of the Lord. I cover all that in my book. I wrote on the topic, what on earth is about to happen, and my video series, and my chart, and we covered it in our show a couple months ago. I wish it wasn't true. I don't like pain, but we're here for the whole tribulation.
Right.
Ask the Christians in Nigeria about tribulation. They're going through it right now, being slaughtered by the hundreds.
Right.
So I think tribulation is what the world does to us, and we're here for it. So I had to switch my theology, and I really studied it hard, and I said, Lord, I don't like this, but this is what your word says. I'd rather know the truth and know it's coming.
Right.
Okay?
Now, will you do an updated version of your Woe series?
Well, the Woe series, I did probably 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, it's on my channel, drdino.com. It's on Rumble and Facebook and Twitter and X. And we have our own TV app, KentHovind.tv. So you can get the Woe series. It's 21 hours. You get it for $100 and watch it, send it back, get your money back if you want. So I got so many other things I'm trying to get covered before I die. I got to be at least halfway toward dead, at 73. I should make it to 150, so I'm not quite halfway.
Right.
But then, if I get time, I'll do it. How's that?
Hey,
Okay.
no complaints from me.
Okay.
So it's interesting, which I know a little bit about your chart, but explain it. Okay, explain it from, well, maybe not like a deep dive, but the cliff notes from the entire timeline.
Okay. In Daniel was in captivity in Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, okay? The king had a dream, and it scared him half to death. He dreamed that he saw a giant statue of a man with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet of clay. But the king forgot the dream. All he knew was it terrified him. He called all his wise guys in and said, "Oh, guys, I just had a horrible dream. What does it mean?" They said, "Well, king, tell us what you dreamed and we'll interpret it." He said, "I forgot the dream. I want you to tell me what I dreamed and what it means." He said, "Oh, king, that ain't fair. Nobody does that,
Yeah.
He was going to kill them all. Well, Daniel was in training to be one of the wise guys for the king. And so he was a Jew, of course, captive in Israel, or captive in Babylon. And he heard about what's going on. And so he went in, he said, "Would you tell the king? I'll tell him what he dreamed." And the Lord revealed the dream to Daniel. And then Daniel went in and said, "King, you saw a giant image of a man with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and..." This is all in Daniel chapter 2.
Right.
Okay? You saw this big image. And the king said, that's right. I remember now. What's it mean? He said, "Well, God is telling you there's going to be 5 world kingdoms. The first worldwide kingdom is you, Nebuchadnezzar, Babylonian Empire. You're the head of gold. After you is going to come one that's less valuable. Silver is not as expensive as gold.
Yep.
It's going to be the Persian Empire. After that's going to be a third one. And now we know that was the Greek Empire.
Right.
Alexander the Great. After that was the legs of iron. That was the Roman Empire. And it split into the Eastern and Western Roman Empire. 2 legs, okay? Then the final kingdom, the final kingdom is going to be the feet, 10 toes. He said the feet is going to be iron mixed with clay. And iron and clay don't bond together, okay? So the final kingdom, he said, is going to be partly strong and partly broken. And the king said, "That's right, I remember the dream now." And then he said, "King, you saw a rock come down, a stone cut out of the mountain come down and hit the image on the feet and shattered the whole thing into powder, and the wind blew it all away." So he's getting about 600 BC when this dream occurred, 600 years before Christ. Here's Daniel right here on my chart. This is the big 7,000-year timeline, and this is just a blown-up section of the middle. And so we are now we've seen these 4 kingdoms come and go, the Roman Empire, but the final one probably is going to be a Muslim. I'm just my guess. I put Muslim Alliance ?
Right.
That's my guess. They're going to have a world empire. They want to control the world. There's 25% of the world is now Muslim.
Did not know that.
And in their religion, the only way to be sure you're going to heaven is to kill a Christian. Yeah. They hate anybody who won't bow down to their God. You're required to kill them.
Right.
That's their thinking. True. And I think we're going to see them become more and more powerful, take over by force.
Well, could that be atheists too? Because they don't believe in anything. If the Muslim came to an atheist and said, try to convert them and they wouldn't convert, they'd have to kill them, right?
I'll leave that up to let them sort it out, I tell you, if the Muslims and the atheists start fighting, I'm just going to step back and let them fight,
Yeah.
Not going to help either side. So the big picture is God's working on a 7,000-year calendar.
Yep.
The creation was about 6,000 years ago. Then we had the big flood in the days of Noah. Then Jesus came 2,000 years ago. And we're now in what's called the age of the Gentiles. The Jews were supposed to be God's people. They're supposed to be spreading the gospel. They didn't do very good, and God said, okay, that's it. When they rejected Jesus and crucified him, God said, I'm going to take you guys, and I'm going to take off this natural olive branch, Romans chapter 11, and graft in the wild olive branch. That's be the Gentiles. So I'm Norwegian. So yeah, we now are supposed to be bearing fruit for the Lord. We're not doing too good either, so he's going to take us off and put the Jews back in.
Right.
So the big picture is God's got it all under control. He's not the least bit nervous. See, God's not stuck in time. We're stuck in time.
Right.
Have you ever done something dumb and you wished you could go back 5 seconds to undo what you just did?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
We're stuck in time. You can't do it.
Right.
See, God doesn't have that problem. He's right now in tomorrow.
Right.
He's right now in next month, and he sees all time at the same time. So God is not stuck in time, space, or matter. That's another long, interesting story. So I think God gave us what we can handle, what our brain can hold right here in this book. I'm so sorry. So God gave us the past, the present, what's going on, and the future.
Right.
We know what's going to come. There's going to come a time of tribulation, and he says, just in patience, just be patient and go through it. He can protect you through anything. He protected Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego right through the fire. Fire didn't hurt them.
Right.
He protected the children of Israel right through the desert. 40 years of wandering. He gave them food and water every day in a desert.
Right.
2 million people. God protected. See, Daniel and Joseph and several people in the Bible went to school in Egypt. They learned all the Egyptian pagan gods and all that stuff, and they didn't swallow it.
Right.
Moses, as a baby, was taken into captivity, raised in Pharaoh's house, and he didn't write Genesis. He edited it together. Genesis got 10 authors that are all eyewitnesses.
Yeah, explain that. Explain that.
Well, Moses grew up to be Pharaoh's son, okay, and he learned all the Egyptian stuff. The Bible says. So he was at that time in Egypt. They had the largest library in the world.
Right.
I think Hovind theory. God wrote the first chapter of Genesis. Nobody else would know what order things were created in, because man's made on day 6. Who would know what was made on day 3 and day 4 and day 5? Oh, nobody but God.
Right.
So I think God gave that information to Adam. Adam then wrote part of Genesis. I covered all this on video number 7. Who wrote Genesis? Genesis has 10 different authors. If you look at chapter 1 of Genesis, it mentions the word God 31 times. When you go to chapter 2, starting in verse 4, it says Lord God. And atheists say, see, there's somebody else. This is somebody else's writing. That's correct. It was Adam writing chapter 2, 3, and 4. And then Noah wrote part of Genesis. He was there. So the whole book is written by eyewitnesses. Moses, I believe, I'm sorry. My theory would be Moses got these clay tablets in the Egyptian library that were the original. When you write on clay and then bake it in the sun, it turned like pottery, it lasts forever.
Right.
So the clay tablets were the first couple chapters of Genesis. Then Moses edited all these together into the book of Genesis. Then Moses actually wrote Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. He was there. I mean, he's the one, he was the eyewitness. So people say there's contradictions between chapter 1 and chapter 2. Oh, no. We need 5 hours to explain all this, but no.
Right.
The Bible has the King James Bible anyway, no contradictions at all. It's flawless. God preserved his word like he said he would. Now, the New Bible versions are changing and perverting things, and stick with the King James. So yeah, long answer. Moses edited Genesis. He wrote Exodus to Deuteronomy. Okay?
Which brings me to my next question. Why King James?
Well, on my video 7, I answered that question for 45 minutes. God promised he would preserve his words. Okay? Where are they? I would like to hold them. Okay? Let's see. Let's get my seminar part 7. If I can open up 20 things at once here, Joseph. How many can I have open? We're going to find out. Here we go. Why King James? Right here. The serpent said to the woman, yea, hath God said. The first thing the devil did was to try to get Eve to doubt God's words. God, it promised in Psalm 12, the words of the Lord are pure words, as silver tried in a furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them. O Lord, thou shalt preserve them. What does the them refer to? To the words.
Right.
God's promising to preserve his words. Look what they did in the NIV. The words of the Lord are flawless, like silver purified in a furnace of clay, purified 7 times. O Lord, you will keep us safe and protect us from such people. It's not saying the same thing.
No.
No. See, they don't want to say God's going to preserve his words because they just got done changing 6,000 of them.
Right.
Okay? what happened, right after the time of Christ, the New Testament was finished. John on the Isle of Patmos finished the book of Revelation, and God said, don't add to my words, okay? So it's done. So back in those days, they didn't have printing presses. You had to handwrite. If you wanted a copy of the Bible, you had to handwrite it. And there were people, that was their full-time job. They're called the scribes, where we get the word subscribe, prescribe, inscribe, means to write. They would have the original scroll and a new scroll, and they would look at it and write. They would copy line at a time, line at a time. Then they'd go back and check and count the letters. And if they made a mistake, they'd have to burn their scroll and start over. You know, you might lose a month's wages. Okay, so they were very careful. So they were hand copying the Bible all through human history before we got the printing press, you know. But so copies were made and spread around the world. And so the king was required, if you read the Bible, the requirements for the king in Israel, as soon as you get on the throne, your job for the next 6 months or something is to make your own personal copy of the Bible. They had to handwrite the Bible.
Right.
Up to the point when they lived, okay? So that was the king's duty. And plus you got the scribes doing all this. So these copies of the Bible are being spread around the world and in ancient scrolls, okay? Well, meanwhile, about 300 years later, 240 AD, a guy named Origen down in Alexandria made his own copy of the Bible and left out things he didn't like. Okay? So there's Alexandria, Egypt down there. The only mention of Alexandria, the first mention, is that they're arguing with Stephen. The first mention, the people in Alexandria did not like the Christianity. They wanted to have their own brand of Christianity. So they made their own Bible, and they left out 200 verses. They didn't like them. They made 6,000 other major changes. Then they started making copies of their Bible. So now you got two groups, both claiming to have the Bible, both making copies, spreading them around the world. The corrupt Bible from Alexandria, and the real Bible, which became centered in Antioch. It was where the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch. So the Catholics came along and made an English translation of the Bible, the Douay Rheims Confraternity version, and it's a good translation of the wrong book. They're translating the Alexandrian manuscript. Now, they got the wrong Bible to translate.
Right.
I mean, a really good translation of Playboy is still a bad book. Okay. Okay.
That's true.
So Westcott and Hort came along, and they took the Alexandrian Bible and made another English translation of it, and everybody said, oh, wow, let's use this. They made a Greek and Hebrew translation, updated it. And then so people began making English translations of Westcott and Hort. They made, the Revised Version, the American Standard, the Revised Standard, the Jehovah's Witness New World Translation, the American Standard. All of these are good translations of the wrong book. They're translating the Alexandrian manuscript. For example, here's the NIV. I've got them all, most all the Bible versions right there on my shelf. This is the NIV, verse 36. As they traveled along the road, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, look, here is water. Why shouldn't I be baptized? Okay, verse 36. Where's verse 37?
Not there.
It's not there, is it?
Right.
They took it out. Huh. Why? Because he answered their question. The guy said, can I get baptized? The answer was, if you believe. Well, this cult down in Egypt wanted to baptize babies. What churches today baptize babies?
Catholics.
Catholics, Lutheran, Methodist,
Right.
Orthodox. So they took the verse out. Here's the American Standard Bible, verse 37. It says, see footnote. Jehovah's Witness Bible, just drew a line. I got them all right there. Check it out. Acts 8:37 is gone. Here's what it says. If you believe with all your heart, you may. He said, I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Well, they wanted to baptize babies, so they took the verse out. There are 200 verses missing from these newer Bibles. So you ask, why King James? I don't fight people that use other Bible versions. I'd rather have them read any Bible than nothing, okay? And then you can still get saved from these other Bibles. There's enough gospel in there. But the theory they went on was they found 3 of these old Alexandrian manuscripts, and they happened to be older than all the other stuff they had. They said, wow, this is older, therefore it's better.
Right.
Whoa, no, it's older. It doesn't mean it's better. It means it's older, that's all. I've got a Jehovah's Witness Bible sitting right there. It will probably never get worn out.
Right.
I wear my Bibles out all the time. Older does not mean better. they find thousands and thousands of copies that match what became the King James Bible. It's called the Textus Receptus, which is Latin, the received text, the text that we got from great-grandpa, great-great-grandpa. The Alexandrian manuscripts, Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, Westcott and Hort relied on those for their authority to make their translation. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, when they were found in 1947, they then proved that the King James is the right one. They found 40,000 more manuscripts, but they matched the King James, and now the oldest ones match what the King James translators used. So there's we have all kinds of books we sell on that topic on our website. Go to drdino.com. Here's an example. Let's see, let me go all day on this topic. Let's see. King James. Joseph and his mother marveled at the things were spoken of him. Okay? NIV. The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Was Joseph his father?
He was not.
He wasn't. He's born of a virgin.
Yep.
He was his stepdad, but he wasn't his father. Okay. The same thing with the English Standard Version. His father and mother marveled. Mm-hmm. What do we got here? The New Living Translation. Jesus' parents were amazed. I can maybe accept that one. Holman Standard, Holman Christian. His father and mother were amazed. This just isn't true.
Right.
Joseph wasn't his father. So stuff like that you find. That's why I say there are 6,000 changes that really create problems, I think, most of them. And 200 verses totally missing. Jesus' parents, let's see. I return to the grave. So I go through quite a few of the, on video number 7. There you go. Who killed Goliath?
David.
David, okay. Here's King James, 2 Samuel 21. There was a battle in Gob with the Philistines where Elhanan, the son of his dad with a big name, slew the brother of Goliath. See, David picked up 5 stones. Goliath had 4 brothers.
Right.
So Elhanan killed Goliath's brother. Here's the NIV. Another battle with the Philistines, Elhanan killed Goliath. This is just plain not true.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, there are lots of contradictions in these. The New American Standard. Elhanan killed Goliath. No, he didn't. King James, they leave out verse 21 in NIV, Matthew 17:21. These are some of the verses that are left out. So, like I said, I don't fight people that use this, but I think if you really want to be a serious Christian, you're going to have to get a King James Bible and use it, okay? The old King James.
Right.
Okay? Other questions?
Now, how did you come up with the Creation Seminar series back in the day? Like your video 1, video 2, and so on, because that's a pretty good little format that you got there.
Well, I really wrestled with it. I taught science in high school 15 years. I love to learn. I want to explain things. When I was a new Christian, I started reading all the books by Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish. They're excellent. Those guys are genius creation scientists. But they use all the $10 words. And when you get done listening to him talk, you say, wow, he's really smart. What did he say? You know what I mean? Okay. I said, somebody needs to dumb this stuff down to the 4th grade level. And I think that's what God has gifted me with, being able to explain complicated things real simply. I was explaining trigonometry last night to an 11-year-old family visiting here. And he got it. Oh, that's how trig works. Yeah, trigonometry. So I began reading all these books by Henry Morris and Dwayne Gish, Institute for Creation Research. They produce great stuff in Dallas, Texas, ICR.org. I highly recommend them. However, mine is more entry level. So I began looking, first of all, what's the primary thing the atheists need for their theory to be reasonable? Billions of years. So my first video is called The Age of the Earth. How to prove the Earth is not billions of years old.
Right.
If you take away time, the whole argument collapses. And if indeed the Earth is not billions of years old, then why did Adam and Eve live to be 900? So my video number 2 about the Garden of Eden is 2 hours long, explaining what was the world like, what was different, why did they live to be 900 years old? Video number 3, if the Earth is only 6,000 years old, where do dinosaurs fit in? So number 3, all about dinosaurs, mentioned in the Bible, living with man all through history. Some may still be alive. Noah took them on the ark. Video number 4, lies in the textbooks. What are they teaching our kids to try to get them to believe this crazy evolution theory? There are 30-some lies in the average textbook. Got shelves of biology books, earth science books, physical science books. They're teaching kids things that have been proven wrong years ago to get them to believe in evolution. They're still teaching the kids the baby growing in the mother has gill slits. Embryology, that was proven wrong in 1874. Still in the books. Go look, that whole rack right over there is all biology books from public schools. Video number 5 is called The Dangers of Evolution. This theory of evolution is responsible for World War II.
Yeah.
Why did Hitler kill Jews? He thought they were inferior.
Inferior to.
Yeah. Why did the Japanese kill how many? Was it 17 million Chinese? They went way more than Hitler killed of the Jews. The Japanese thought they were superior to the Chinese. They killed millions and millions of Chinese. They thought they were superior because Darwin's book took over Japan by storm. You know, wow, everybody said, we're a superior race.
Right.
Then video number 6, the Hovind theory. What happened? Where did the water for the flood come from? Where did it go? What did it do? And video number 7 is actually 2 DVDs, questions and answers, all kinds of things like where did the races come from? Did Adam and Eve have a belly button? You know, all kinds of questions. 5 hours worth. That's why you get the whole series for $50. When you're done, return it, get your money back. But I did this series thousands of times. I traveled all over the world. I went to 37 countries in all 50 states. I was speaking 900 times a year. And many, many times we would redo a section at a time. And I got it as polished as I can and moved on with other stuff, you know.
Right.
Everybody says, you're going to redo it? If I get time.
If you get time, you'll do it.
No promises, okay.
So, Psalms 104. Someone told me to ask you this, so I'm going to ask you. So Psalm 104, there's two things that people have told me. That it's creation, strictly creation, and the flood, or vice versa. It's just talking about the creation or the flood. So is there a switch between Psalm 104, or is there, how does that work?
I think, well, Psalm 104 is a pretty long psalm. Let's see, I got it here in front of us here. It's 35 verses.
Yeah.
It covers quite a few topics, but in there, it talks about at the end of the flood, the mountains arose and the valleys sank down. If the earth was cracked up like an eggshell, like it is today with fault lines everywhere,
Right.
If the earth was cracked up at the time of the flood when the fountains of the deep broke open, these plates, we'll call them plates of the earth, maybe the size of America, would be, flexing up and down. And some of them are still moving. That's why we have earthquakes and volcanoes and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
The ring of fire, fault lines, okay? I think the plates of the earth were still very loose, shifting around during the whole flood. Just the moon pulling the tide up and down is going to make all kinds of changes to the crust of the earth that's broken up underneath, causing the water to swirl around different things, leaving the patterns we see in what they call the geologic column. But all the layers of the earth were formed during that flood. And in some places, they're twisted and bent, and, that would happen also with, again, the lifting. So when the moon is pulling the water, when we're turning under the moon, it's pulling the water up, down, by moon's gravity, pulling the high tide and low tide.
Right.
So I think at the end of the flood, the mountains arose. Some places might have lifted up quickly. If we filled this room 3 feet deep in water and then picked up this end of the building, what would happen?
It would go that way.
The water would rush down there, okay? Mm-hmm. How fast we pick it up would determine how fast it runs off. So different plates are tilting and shifting at different speeds in different places.
Right.
And it's a very interesting phenomenon that nearly all the mountain ranges follow the coastline. The Rocky Mountains follow the North Pacific. The Appalachian Mountains follow the North Atlantic. The Alps the Andes Mountains in South America.
Follow the ocean.
They follow the ocean. Yeah. So I think there's a connection there. I have to wait and get to heaven and watch the video to be sure. But
right.
I don't know if they got video there or DVD. Which I don't care. USB, whatever God's got, we'll take it.
Right.
But I think the scoffers, it says in 2 Peter, the scoffers are ignorant of the creation and the flood. And so those are the two major things. See, they don't understand the original creation. When God made the world, it says in Genesis 1, there was water above the firmament. And it tells us in chapter 1 that the firmament is where the birds fly. That would be the air we're breathing, the atmosphere. Right. Today, our atmosphere goes out about 50 miles. for the space shuttle to get away from that so it has no drag, it has to get up 50 miles. Otherwise the air slows it down. If you squeezed all the air down into 10 miles and covered it with a crystal ball, the Jews have always taught there was 2 or 3 finger thick ice, crystal ice above the atmosphere, completely surrounding the world like a greenhouse. That could have been held up because super cold ice becomes magnetic. You get it down really cold, it becomes affected by a magnet. So I think this crystal canopy used to be 10 miles up, squeezing all the air down. It squeezed all the air down, and the air pressure was greater, and the canopy was held up by either the magnetic field or just simple air pressure, like an inflatable building. They have some huge inflatable buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Inflatable football stadiums. Okay? So that canopy then was shattered at the time of the flood. When the fountains of the deep broke open, I think it shot rocks up and shattered this canopy. Super cold ice, being magnetic, would be sucked in and dumped on the North and South Pole.
Right.
So there'd be an instant ice age at the beginning of Noah's flood. Then that air is going to expand out to its current 50 miles, which is going to cool things down. The atheists say, look, it's a heat problem, man. If it rains, it produces heat. I know, called latent heat of condensation. I taught physics. Okay, well, they say we can't rain and cover Mount Everest without cooking the world.
Yeah.
Well, first place, it didn't need to rain to cover Mount Everest, but the heat problem is neutralized by the expanding atmosphere. When they find dinosaur bones, they find, like the Apatosaurus, this guy, 80-foot-long Apatosaurus, had nostrils the same size as a horse.
Right.
How's he going to breathe? Today, he couldn't.
Right.
And today, they don't. There's none this big around anymore, okay? But there used to be. And the lungs are real small lungs, small nostrils, huge body, because the original creation had greater air pressure and probably richer oxygen. I covered that in video number 2. But the scoffers are willingly ignorant of what that original creation was like. The Bible talks about heavens, plural. In Genesis 1, verse 1, in the King James, in the beginning, God created the heaven, singular. All the other versions say heavens, plural. They're wrong. King James is right. He made the earth and heaven. Then he divided heaven up into 3 slices. The first heavens where the birds fly.
Right.
The second heavens where the stars are. And the third heaven's only mentioned once. The Apostle Paul said he was caught up to the third heaven. I think that's where God lives.
Right.
Okay, the Bible doesn't say enough about it. Maybe because our brain couldn't hold it, or God doesn't want us to know yet, or it doesn't matter. There's not enough verses. So the first heaven, though, where the birds fly, used to be compressed air, I think. Double the air pressure we have now. Just breathing would be exciting.
Right.
Someone gave us last week another hyperbaric chamber. I've got it in my bedroom. And one of our guys let me zip me in there last night. I was in there for an hour reading, answering my phone messages, breathing double atmospheric pressure. And it just, everything heals faster. You feel great, coming out of there.
Right.
So I think the whole earth was a big hyperbaric chamber. A lot of hospitals have those to heal. People heal faster. So, yeah, I think, back to your question, Psalm 104, I think is describing the end of the flood. When the mountains arose, the valleys sank down, the water rushed off.
Right.
Okay?
Now, in Genesis, where is the switch from predatory from
Meat eater.
Yeah, from vegetarian to predator.
If you read Genesis chapter 1, God said, I'm going to give to all the animals the plants to eat. Everything was vegetarian. Let's see. God said, be fruitful and multiply. Genesis 1:29. God said, behold, I've given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So man was supposed to eat the fruit, vegetables, and seeds. To every beast of the earth, every beast, this is verse 30, and to every fowl of the air, and everything that creepeth over upon the earth, wherein there is life, I've given every green herb for meat. All the animals were vegetarian. After the flood, Genesis chapter 9, Noah's getting off the ark now. Flip over to after the flood, Genesis chapter 9. Something changed, probably because the crystal canopy overhead was gone. They had less air pressure, and they need more energy to stay alive. So they probably need meat. You get more calories per pound.
Right.
God blessed Noah and his sons, Genesis 9:1, and said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. This is when animals became afraid of man, after the flood. So before the flood and during the flood, they're all friendly. Noah didn't have cages on the ark. He had rooms.
Right.
But the animals go, I don't go hand feed our animals every day around here. You throw out a bale of hay and they go find it, right? But look at this. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb. So now you can eat animals. That was the command to Noah, Genesis 9, verse 3. But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood, ye shall not eat. So the commandment was, don't eat the blood. And that's been the commandment all through history. Even in the New Testament times, the commandment was, don't eat the blood. And that's why when they kill a cow to butcher it, they hang it up and let the blood drain out.
Right.
Yep. Okay?
And lastly, present the gospel. How would you present the gospel?
God is perfect, flawless, holy, righteous. We are sinful. We got a problem. Jesus died on the cross to pay for those sins, and he just wants us to receive the gift. If you burned your neighbor's house down and he came over and said, look, you owe me $100,000 or I'm taking you to jail. And I came along and said, look, I don't want you to go to jail. I write out a check. Here's $100,000. I could certainly write that check, but it would bounce really high, okay? Let's just pretend, okay?
Yep.
You have a choice now to accept my gift or not. If you don't accept my gift, you're going to have to pay for the house somehow.
Right.
But if you accept my gift, the guy doesn't care who pays for it. Just give me $100,000, okay?
Yep.
So Jesus paid for my sin. So February 9th, 1969, I prayed. I said, Lord, I am a sinner. I deserve to go to hell. But I believe you died for me. I believe you rose from the dead. Would you please come live in my heart and save me right now? The Bible says when you receive him, you become a child of God. This acorn right here, that acorn knows how to make an oak tree. Do you know how to make an oak tree? You're dumber than a nut.
Yep.
Okay, me too. Okay. All the scientists in the world cannot make an acorn.
Right.
They certainly can't make an oak tree. This seed cannot make the tree, though, if the dirt won't let it come in. So you poke a hole in the dirt, or the squirrel digs a little hole, sticks the nut in there, and covers it up. Okay. Then the nut can build the tree. Dirt has no idea how to make a tree. This thing knows how to make a tree.
Right.
But it can't do its job if the dirt won't let it in. I'm like the dirt, and Jesus is the seed. When you ask him to come live inside of you, you get born into his family. When your mother's womb received the seed from your father, that starts your life. You're alive. You're a human being at conception. Yep. But if the womb won't, if her seed won't receive the seed from the father, then there's not going to be any life. So as an analogy, I guess. So February 9th, 1969, I received Jesus into my heart, and he started growing inside to make a whole new person. And there's been a battle ever since. I got that old Kent Hovind that loves to do things bad, and I got that new one in there that can't do anything bad, and they fight all the time. So
right, absolutely.
Every Christian understands that battle. So non-Christians don't. All they've got is one old nature. So they sin and they like it. Yeah. Christians can do the same sin, but it better bother you, or something's wrong.
Right.
So salvation is simply a matter of receiving that gift into your heart. John 1:12, as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. John chapter 3, you must be born again. And you get born again when you receive him. Now, once you're born into God's family, you cannot possibly lose that. Your dad is your dad, and whether you like it or not, he's stuck with you and you're stuck with him.
Yep.
You're genetically his son. And you may disappoint him. He may have to spank you. He may have to, punish you. I don't know how bad you were as a kid. If you're like me, you probably got plenty of spankings. Okay. Yeah. So but God, my dad never threatened me with killing me. It was a punishment, a spanking, or something like. When a child of God sins, they can't lose their salvation. They can lose their rewards. They can lose their joy. They can lose their fellowship. When I did something wrong, I didn't want to hang around Dad. I wanted to get away from him.
Yeah.
Because so when you're living in sin, you don't want to go read your Bible and pray and go to church. You're still God's child, and eventually you'll come back, hopefully. But Now, salvation is a gift. So just like you have a birthday into your mom and dad's family, you have to have a birthday into God's family. Mine's February 9th, 1969. That's the day when I said, Lord, I'm a sinner. Would you please forgive me and save me? Would you please come live in my heart and save me? And a seed got planted. For the next couple of weeks, I could tell something's growing in there. I'm different. I noticed that I cursed. I didn't notice it before. All the kids in school, high school, stand around the locker room, say cuss words and stuff. All of a sudden it bothered me, like, whoa. I was afraid to talk for a while. I didn't realize what a filthy mouth I had. So when you get born again, you're probably going to start noticing, whoa, I better change that. When babies are born, they wet their diaper and they don't even think about it. By the time they're 2 years old or 3 years old, they start thinking, I really shouldn't do this. I should be a big boy now and get my big boy pants on.
Right.
So a Christian should grow and realize, man, I should really quit wetting my pants.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's good. That's all I got for you. Hey, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, brother. Let's go take a tour of the place.
Let's do it.
All right. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland, Lenox, Alabama. Straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles. Go to drdino.com, D-R-D-I-N-O. If you want to talk to me, 855-BIG-DINO. I'm extension 3. If you want to get a show scheduled, extension 4, Joseph. We'll book a show. Be glad. We want to help spread the gospel around the world. Thank you. All right. Sorry, you got to